grind of life, a rare breed of men seem to walk untouched by the hands of time. You've seen them, the Sigma males. Mysterious, unbothered, and radiating a quiet strength that only sharpens with age. What makes them so different? Why do Sigmas seem to carry a timeless aura while others fade into the background? This isn't just about good genetics or lucky breaks. No, the answer lies in how these men live, think, and move through the world. Sigma males aren't chasing the crowd. They're not burning themselves out trying to impress, nor are they trapped in endless cycles of stress from trying to fit in. Instead, they conserve their energy, guard their peace, and choose battles that matter. And this way of life, it leaves a mark, not just on the mind, but on the body itself. While others crumble under pressure, Sigmas thrive in solitude. While others waste years chasing approval, Sigmas grow stronger in silence. Science shows that stress accelerates aging, while purpose and independence slow it down. The Sigma embodies this truth. Each wrinkle avoided, each ounce of vitality preserved, is a result of choices most men can't bring themselves to make. And the result, an ageless presence that commands respect without a word spoken. So if you've ever wondered why Sigmas remain sharp, magnetic, and powerful long after others have lost their edge, stay tuned. Because today we're diving deep into the 7 powerful reasons Sigma males stay ageless, while the rest fade away. And trust me, by the end you'll see why the Sigma life isn't just a mindset. It's the closest thing men have to a fountain of youth. Reason 1, freedom from social pressure. The modern world is designed in a way that often depletes men before their time, not through physical aging alone, but through the invisible weight of constant stress. From the moment they step into adulthood, men are pushed into a cycle of relentless competition, racing for promotions, possessions, and social status. This endless climb is amplified by the noise of modern culture, where comparison has become a sport fueled by social media. Studies in psychology show that chronic stress triggers higher levels of cortisol, a hormone directly linked to premature aging, weakened immunity, and even shortened lifespans. For many men, the pressure to be enough in the eyes of others, whether through wealth, achievements, or physical image, leads to exhaustion that strips away not just vitality, but the very essence of youth. Yet the Sigma male walks a different path, one that offers a striking contrast to this burnout-driven lifestyle. He refuses to measure his worth by the yardstick of society, choosing instead to define success on his own terms. This rejection of the rat race does not mean laziness or lack of ambition. It means liberation from the need for external validation. By detaching from hollow competitions, the Sigma conserves his most precious resource, energy. Modern research in neuroscience confirms that a calm, balanced state of mind not only reduces stress, but also actively supports cellular repair, allowing the body to function more efficiently and age more slowly. Where other men crumble under the weight of expectations, the Sigma thrives in solitude and self-direction, avoiding the corrosive effects of stress that so often accelerate decline. He understands that true strength is not found in the constant grind, but in the mastery of detachment. This mindset grants him a form of resilience that keeps him sharper, calmer, and more youthful, even as others show the early signs of wear. The Sigma male's refusal to be consumed by the hierarchy is not just a rebellion, it is a preservation strategy. He sidesteps the invisible traps that drain life from so many men, choosing instead a life aligned with his values and inner compass. In doing so, he demonstrates a timeless truth, that peace of mind is the greatest anti-aging secret of all. While others chase approval at the cost of their vitality, the Sigma preserves both his spirit and his youth, proving that freedom, not frenzy, is the true key to lasting strength. Reason 2, self-mastery. Over stress, most men move through life at the mercy of their emotions, and it shows not only in their behavior, but also in their health and appearance. Anger, fear, and jealousy are not just passing moods. They create physiological storms in the body. When a man rages, his cortisol levels spike, his blood pressure rises, and his body enters a state of fight or flight. This constant stress response accelerates cellular aging, shortens telomeres, the protective caps on DNA, and increases inflammation, which scientists have directly linked to premature aging. Stress, in many ways, is a silent killer, that doesn't just drain years off life, but also robs men of vitality, resilience, and clarity. Yet here lies the Sigma's advantage. While others are consumed by their emotions, he practices the art of detachment. He doesn't repress or deny what he feels. Instead, he observes those emotions like clouds passing through the sky, refusing to let them dictate his next move. This ability to remain calm under pressure is more than just a personality trait. It is a form of inner discipline that shields him from the corrosive effects of chaos. Psychologists call this emotional regulation, and studies show that people who master it live longer, healthier lives. It is why the Sigma, even when life throws him into storms, seems untouched by the wear and tear that ages his peers. While others panic and make reckless choices, his focus remains steady, his decisions deliberate. Over time, this mastery compounds. Lower stress equals stronger immunity, slower aging, sharper cognition, and even a calmer presence that others can feel. In essence, control over stress is control over time itself. Think of it like this. Two men face the same crisis. One explodes with anger, drains his energy, and leaves his body weakened. The other remains composed, conserving his strength and moving forward with precision. A decade later, you can see the difference in their faces, their posture, and their overall aura. The Sigma's secret is not found in external tricks or quick fixes, but in the cultivation of an inner fortress that stress cannot breach. By mastering his emotions rather than being mastered by them, he not only gains freedom of mind, but also bends the very perception of aging in his favor. In a world where stress shortens lives, the Sigma's discipline makes him appear timeless. Reason 3, solitude as renewal. For most people, loneliness feels like a heavy burden, a silent thief that drains joy, vitality, and purpose. Yet for the Sigma male, solitude operates on the opposite spectrum. It doesn't deplete him, it restores him. Alone time isn't a void to be filled, but a strategic sanctuary where his spirit sharpens and his mind expands. While many scramble to fill silence with noise and shallow relationships, the Sigma retreats to silence as if it were a wellspring of power. Science even backs this paradox. Studies in psychology show that intentional solitude can lower stress, improve memory, and even boost creativity, making isolation not a weakness but a hidden superpower. The Sigma understands this deeply, and while others age prematurely under the weight of social pressure, comparison, and endless obligations, he reverses that process by stepping away. His solitude works like a reset button, flushing out the clutter of the world, regenerating his emotional clarity, and aligning him with his true direction. Unlike loneliness, which is imposed from outside, solitude is chosen from within, and it is this choice that transforms time alone into a tool of rejuvenation. Consider how ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius or modern innovators like Nikola Tesla thrived in periods of deep seclusion. Their breakthroughs weren't born in crowded rooms, but in quiet spaces where thought could roam freely. The Sigma walks the same path. Solitude becomes his fountain of youth, not just metaphorically, but biologically, since quiet reflection and reduced social stresses are linked to lower cortisol levels and healthier aging. Each hour alone isn't wasted, it's investment. He meditates, strategizes, and rebuilds his energy, turning silence into fuel. This makes him appear timeless, almost ageless, because while the world burns itself out in constant chatter and performance, the Sigma is quietly recharging, conserving his vitality for what truly matters. People may look at him and wonder why he doesn't crave company. But what they miss is that his power comes from within, and solitude is the forge where that power is refined. To the outside world, it may look like withdrawal, but in truth, it is preparation, a hidden ritual of restoration that keeps his spirit clear and his vision sharp. For the Sigma, time alone is not a prison, but a palace, and in that palace he discovers something rare, the ability to remain youthful in mind, body, and soul while others fade under the weight of the crowd. Reason 4, strategic energy use. Every man wakes up each day with a limited supply of energy, much like a bank account. The average man spends his resources recklessly, arguing over trivial matters, chasing fleeting pleasures, and scattering his focus on distractions that yield little value. This constant expenditure leaves him drained, frustrated, and older than his years. The Sigma male, however, approaches energy differently. He understands that it is his most precious currency, and unlike money, it cannot be regained once wasted. Studies in psychology and neuroscience support this. Decision fatigue, for example, shows how making too many small, unnecessary choices throughout the day reduces mental strength and willpower. Sigmas intuitively sidestep this trap. Instead of scattering their attention, they conserve it, channeling their limited daily energy into pursuits that compound over time: personal growth, skill mastery, and carefully chosen relationships. He treats focus like a fortress, allowing very few things inside its gates. This is why others perceive him as calm, unbothered, and resilient, even in chaotic environments. Where most men burn out by overextending themselves, the Sigma thrives by staying selective. This principle is not only philosophical but practical. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and thinkers who manage their energy strategically outperform those who rely on raw effort alone. By investing energy in growth, a Sigma male compounds his vitality over years instead of squandering it. He avoids unnecessary drama and petty battles because he knows they yield no return, much like throwing water into the desert. Instead, he directs his inner fire toward endeavors that multiply, sharpening his mind, strengthening his body, and building rare but meaningful bonds. In doing so, he preserves his vitality, extending not just his stamina but also the quality of his life. While the average man grows weary from constant entanglements, the Sigma's discipline keeps him sharp, focused, and seemingly ageless. Energy, once guarded and wisely applied, becomes the silent force that sets him apart from the crowd. He doesn't simply survive each day. He engineers his strength, ensuring his limited energy fuels only what truly matters. And that is why the Sigma moves through life with a quiet power that others can't quite explain. Reason 5, detachment from drama. Conflict, gossip, and manipulation are often seen as mere annoyances in daily life, but in reality, they act like invisible corrosives, silently accelerating the aging process of those who dwell in them. Studies in psychology and health sciences have shown that chronic exposure to stress and toxic social environments increases cortisol levels, weakens the immune system, and even shortens telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of our DNA strands that are closely linked to cellular aging. Men who are constantly embroiled in arguments, absorbed by gossip, or manipulated by others often carry this stress physically, manifesting in premature wrinkles, fatigue, and even cardiovascular strain. The Sigma male, however, operates differently. He understands that not every battle is worth fighting, and that explaining himself to those who are closed-minded or malicious is a wasted expenditure of energy. This deliberate detachment is not apathy, it is strategic emotional self-preservation. By refusing to engage in the invisible war of social toxicity, he shields himself from the slow, invisible corrosion that eats away at vitality. He walks through life observing without absorbing negativity, maintaining a calm composure while others fray at the edges of their patience. Historical figures and modern psychologists alike have long emphasized the power of mental discipline in preserving health and longevity. The Sigma male embodies this principle naturally, demonstrating that emotional boundaries are as critical to well-being as diet and exercise. He cultivates focus and clarity, channeling his energy into growth, knowledge, and meaningful action rather than petty disputes. This resistance to drama creates a paradox. While the world around him churns with tension and toxicity, he remains remarkably unscathed, almost timeless in his poise. It is this refusal to be dragged into unnecessary conflict that allows him to age gracefully, both internally and externally. Observing such a man can be a lesson in restraint for anyone willing to learn. His life demonstrates that wisdom is often less about what battles you win, and more about which ones you choose not to fight. Where others carry resentment like a permanent weight, the Sigma male glides past with a clarity and serenity that radiates vitality, showing that detachment is not just a personality trait, it is a powerful tool for preserving not only mental peace but physical youthfulness as well. Reason 6, continuous self-improvement. The Sigma male possesses a mindset that fundamentally reshapes how time affects him. Unlike most men who often settle into routines and let life's momentum carry them forward, the Sigma views each year not as a countdown, but as an opportunity to refine himself. Skills, knowledge, and discipline for him are not static achievements. They are investments that compound over time, much like interest in a high-yield account. Neuroscience shows that continuous learning and mental challenge actually strengthen neural pathways and can slow cognitive decline, which partially explains why individuals who consistently challenge themselves often appear sharper and more energetic well into their later years. The average man may plateau, accepting stagnation as inevitable, and in that stagnation, aging becomes more visible. Physical fitness can decline, mental flexibility can shrink, and a sense of purpose may erode. The Sigma refuses to fall into this trap. He treats each day as an upgrade, seeking mastery over new skills, exploring unfamiliar ideas, and refining both body and mind. This relentless evolution manifests as an unmistakable energy, a presence that feels vibrant, alive, and often ageless. Research in positive psychology emphasizes that personal growth, curiosity, and goal pursuit are strongly linked to well-being and resilience, contributing to the Sigma's timeless aura. Beyond intellect and discipline, his approach to life is deeply experiential. He travels, experiments, and tests boundaries, constantly collecting knowledge and refining his instincts. This motion, both internal and external, creates a feedback loop. Growth fuels energy, energy fuels more growth, and the cycle maintains his vitality. Culturally, society often praises youth as the pinnacle of energy and attractiveness. But the Sigma flips this perception. He demonstrates that age is not a limitation, it is a canvas for accumulation. Every experience, every lesson learned, every skill honed adds layers to his depth, giving him a magnetic quality that others can sense, even if they cannot articulate it. In essence, the Sigma's refusal to plateau is his secret weapon against the passage of time. While the world often measures aging in years or appearances, he measures it in progress, evolution, and mastery. His life is a living demonstration of the idea that vitality does not necessarily diminish with age. It compounds, grows, and transforms, leaving him perpetually renewed, timeless, and quietly unstoppable. Reason 7, legacy over vanity. Vanity is fleeting. Beauty, status, and public recognition are all fragile constructs, prone to decay and erosion over time. The Sigma male understands this deeply. While the world often obsesses over appearances, social validation, and material symbols of success, he invests his energy in pursuits that outlive the superficial metrics of life. Studies in psychology suggest that external validation, praise, admiration, and perceived attractiveness, triggers only short-lived dopamine spikes in the brain. These rewards are temporary, often leaving a person chasing the next fleeting high. In contrast, focusing on mastery, purpose, and meaningful achievements produces long-term satisfaction and resilience. The Sigma's attention is on impact, the knowledge he accumulates, the skills he hones, the influence he imparts, and the legacy he builds. He recognizes that status can rise and fall, beauty will fade with age, and trends are cyclical, but true mastery and meaningful contributions echo through time. Historical figures from Leonardo da Vinci to Nikola Tesla embody this principle. They were not obsessed with vanity or fleeting admiration, yet their work continues to inspire centuries later. This mindset grants the Sigma a sense of timelessness. Unlike men who tie their self-worth to how others perceive them, whose confidence ebbs and flows with compliments, the Sigma's confidence is intrinsic, rooted in substance rather than surface. He measures his value by growth, by how well he lives according to his principles, and by the positive effects he leaves on the world. This internal focus also impacts his presence and demeanor. A man who pursues meaning radiates an energy that transcends age. He is calm in the face of superficial judgment and unshaken by societal pressures, because he knows his worth is not bound to physicality or social rank. Moreover, this dedication to enduring qualities cultivates wisdom, patience, and depth, traits often admired subconsciously even by those who prioritize appearances. In a society obsessed with transient beauty and ephemeral prestige, the Sigma stands apart. While others may frantically chase mirrors and likes, he quietly builds, learns, and influences, leaving footprints that withstand the erosion of time. As a result, he possesses a rare kind of agelessness. He is not frozen in youth, but his essence, impact, and influence remain vibrant regardless of the years. In a world addicted to vanity, the Sigma thrives on substance, proving that true immortality is achieved not through fleeting admiration, but through meaningful, lasting contribution. The Sigma male doesn't try to outrun time, he masters it. Unlike those who scramble to defy aging through fleeting trends or vanity, he approaches life with discipline, detachment, and clarity, bending time through deliberate choices and self-mastery. While others expend energy chasing illusions, the Sigma conserves his strength, renews his focus, and rises above trivial distractions. His agelessness isn't about escaping the effects of time. It's about refusing to waste himself on what lacks meaning. By staying curious, remaining unseen, and moving through life unfazed, he becomes not only resilient but also quietly unforgettable, a force shaped by purpose. Hello, Sigmas. In a world that thrives on noise, validation, and digital applause, the Sigma male remains the quiet observer, the ghost in the crowd who doesn't need to be seen to be significant. He doesn't chase clout or approval, not because he's rebellious, but because he's already forged an identity outside the system. While others compete for attention, he builds in silence. You'll rarely hear him raise his voice or explain his choices because he lives by an internal compass, rooted in logic, experience, and fierce independence. What sets the older Sigma apart isn't just his quiet nature, it's time. Time has sculpted him through solitude, sharpened him through setbacks, and molded his mind into something lethal, yet calm. He's faced betrayal that would break most people and chosen to grow instead of crumble. He doesn't wear bitterness as armor. Instead, he moves with a calculated stillness that commands respect without demanding it. Psychologically, Sigma males often score high on introversion and emotional stability, according to the Big Five personality model. But don't confuse his silence for weakness. It's strategy. The older Sigma has seen too much, lost enough, and learned what truly matters. And if you're lucky enough to earn his trust, he might offer a few words, not to gain favor, but to leave behind something useful, like a torch passed in a dark forest. What he offers isn't motivational fluff. It's raw, unfiltered wisdom born from years of walking alone. He doesn't hand you rules. He offers codes. Codes for surviving betrayal, building resilience, understanding people without trusting everyone, and for mastering the art of. These are lessons the world won't teach you because the world doesn't reward those who move in silence. But the older Sigma doesn't care for rewards. He's after mastery. And if you're watching this, it means you might be ready for that path. So let's step inside his mind and uncover 8 pieces of rare advice, not for attention seekers, but for those who are ready to walk the cold, disciplined road of self-ownership. Let's begin where it all starts. Number 1, master silence before speech. The older Sigma doesn't waste words. Every sentence is a sharp blade, trimmed of ego, stripped of performance, and forged in stillness. He's not interested in impressing others with volume or flair. His responses are deliberate, not because he lacks thoughts, but because he understands the power of restraint. The older Sigma has learned what most men never do, that noise is often a mask people wear to hide their insecurities, and silence is not weakness, it's a weapon. In psychology, this is closely related to what's known as high self-monitoring behavior. People who speak less but observe more are often more attuned to their environment and social cues. Silence becomes a form of dominance, of control, of strategic observation. The Sigma knows that most people talk simply because they fear being overlooked or forgotten. They fill the air with words, hoping to be seen. But the Sigma, he speaks only when there is something worth saying, something grounded in truth or purpose. When he was younger, he too felt the pull to react, to defend, to be heard. But life has taught him through experience, heartbreak, and reflection that the real victory isn't in the loudest response, it's in mastering stillness. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies have shown that people who practice intentional silence or mindfulness have stronger prefrontal cortex activity, which is linked to better decision-making and emotional control. The Sigma has internalized this. He's seen how battles are often lost through overreaction and how composure, when held long enough, causes opponents to unravel on their own. That's why when he finally speaks, people lean in. His words carry weight because they're rare. His voice disrupts the noise like a sudden thunderclap on a quiet night. He doesn't speak to be liked. He speaks to be understood, and often he doesn't speak at all, because he's already said enough with his presence. His silence isn't empty. It's filled with observation, calculation, and truth. And in a world addicted to attention, the Sigma's calm, quiet power is unforgettable. Number 2, discipline is your only true freedom. Freedom doesn't come from breaking rules, it comes from breaking yourself. This isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a brutal truth that Sigma males come to embody, especially as they grow older and wiser. True freedom isn't found in rebellion for its own sake or in chasing thrills without boundaries. Instead, it's found in the hard discipline of mastering your own mind and body. The older Sigma male understands that his worst enemy is not society, authority, or any external system. It's his own undisciplined nature. He sees that his impulses are not expressions of freedom, but chains disguised as desire. Instant gratification, the endless pursuit of comfort, and the addiction to pleasure are all traps, cleverly designed to make men weak, distracted, and dependent. The older Sigma has chosen the harder path, not to escape pressure, but to become someone who no longer crumbles under it. He built his life like a fortress, not out of arrogance, but necessity. His routines aren't boring, they're weapons designed to keep him sharp and focused. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's the forge where his mind is tempered. And pain, that's his coach. Whether it's waking up early, pushing through physical training, or saying no to destructive temptations, he sees pain not as punishment, but as purification. Neuroscience even supports this. Habits and discipline shape neural pathways that increase resilience, emotional control, and long-term satisfaction. The Sigma male isn't looking for a way out, he's looking for a way through. He knows the most dangerous thing a man can do is wait for someone to save him. So when he looks you in the eye and says, "Your freedom doesn't come when the pressure ends, it comes when you no longer need to be rescued," he's not speaking from theory. He's speaking from war, from years of inner battle, and from a life carved by purpose. He's been broken, but he didn't stay shattered. He rebuilt himself, not to impress others, not to follow a crowd, but to walk his own path. That's the essence of Sigma freedom. Not lawlessness, but self-law. Not comfort, but control. Not rescue, but rebirth. Number 3, never explain your silence. People get nervous when you're quiet. They don't know what you're thinking, and that unsettles them. In a society that thrives on constant communication, commentary, and connection, silence becomes threatening. It's misunderstood as rude, cold, or arrogant. But for the older Sigma male, silence is not a sign of detachment or superiority. It's a carefully chosen response, a boundary forged through experience. The world teaches most men to explain themselves, justify every move, and seek validation through words. But the Sigma walks a different path. He has learned that not every absence needs explanation, not every question deserves an answer, and not every goodbye requires closure. Why? Because he's been through the noise before, the betrayals, the fake friendships, and the manipulation behind sugar-coated words. And over time, he refined his strength, not through volume, but through clarity of self. Silence became his language of power. It's not that he can't speak, he simply chooses when it's truly necessary. He understands that people project their insecurities onto what they can't interpret. When you're quiet, others are forced to confront themselves. That's why they panic, that's why they call you aloof or distant. But in truth, your silence is a mirror that reflects their inner discomfort. Scientifically speaking, silence activates the brain's default mode network, responsible for introspection and self-evaluation, which can be uncomfortable for those not used to being alone with their thoughts. That's why the Sigma's calm stillness often rattles the noisy world around him. It breaks the rhythm of expectation and forces others to question the need for constant validation. The Sigma has no desire to correct the misunderstandings. He knows that true strength doesn't beg to be seen or understood. Like a lion resting in the shade, he doesn't roar to prove his dominance. His presence alone is enough. And when the time comes, his words, precise and deliberate, carry more weight than the endless chatter of 1,000 voices. So let them misinterpret you. Let them call you distant, cold, or proud. That's their noise, not yours. The older Sigma knows your silence isn't absence, it's alignment, it's control, and more importantly, it's freedom. Number 4, ghosting isn't cruelty, it's precision. The Sigma male doesn't linger in toxic places, and that's not just a personality quirk, it's a calculated life philosophy. While others might stay entangled in situations out of guilt, comfort, or fear of being alone, the Sigma has trained himself to recognize when a space, a relationship, or an environment is no longer nourishing his soul. He doesn't wait for the 100th red flag, he doesn't write emotional essays when trust is broken, and he certainly doesn't waste his breath arguing over disrespect. Instead, he walks away. Not with fireworks, not with slammed doors, but with calm, deliberate steps. It's not about spite, it's about principle. Psychologically, this behavior aligns with a high level of emotional intelligence and self-respect. The Sigma male's actions are rooted in a deep understanding that peace is more valuable than proving a point. In fact, studies in behavioral psychology show that individuals who prioritize inner peace over social approval are more likely to experience long-term emotional well-being. The Sigma may say, "If I leave clean," and he means it. He doesn't stir the pot, doesn't ignite drama, and doesn't look back to see if anyone is watching. His departure is not a tactic. It's a declaration that he refuses to be poisoned by negativity. The world may interpret his silence and distance as coldness, even arrogance, but the Sigma knows what it truly is: clarity, clear boundaries, clear values, clear direction. He understands that chaos is contagious and that staying too long in dysfunction can cloud judgment and drain purpose. That's why he moves in silence and exits with dignity. This isn't escapism, it's emotional discipline. The Sigma doesn't just leave situations, he elevates from them. In a culture that thrives on endless dialogue, oversharing, and constant digital connection, the Sigma's quiet departure can feel like a rebellion. But for him, it's the ultimate form of control. It's not about being better than anyone else, it's about being better than who he was yesterday. He doesn't chase closure, he doesn't seek applause, he simply chooses peace over noise. And in a world full of confusion and ego, that clarity is rare. The Sigma walks not to escape, but to evolve. Number 5, respect is currency, and you never give it for free. The older Sigma male is a man who has seen too much to be impressed by appearances. His perception cuts deeper than the surface. He watches people, not just their words, but their choices, their tone, and their timing. He doesn't fall for titles, credentials, or name-dropping. Authority doesn't move him unless it's backed by character. Fame? To him, it's just noise. He knows the loudest person in the room is often the weakest. The Sigma has no time for empty charisma or theatrical displays of dominance. He doesn't flatter those in power because he sees through the illusion. True strength isn't about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. And that's what the Sigma values most. He respects integrity, not popularity. He admires those who remain calm under pressure, who don't fold when life gets hard, and who stay rooted even when storms hit. In a world of followers and performers, he is an observer, cool, detached, and calculating. He knows the difference between being heard and being wise. So when someone demands loyalty just because they speak loudly or boast endlessly, the Sigma doesn't argue, he simply walks away. To him, real connection is built on respect, not noise. Loyalty must be earned, not demanded. That's why the older Sigma has mastered the art of silence. He'll say, "You don't owe anyone your attention, not even your enemies." And that's not just a motto, it's a principle rooted in psychology and self-preservation. Attention is currency, and the Sigma refuses to spend his on drama or manipulation. Studies show that emotionally intelligent individuals learn to protect their energy, setting strong boundaries and withdrawing from toxic interactions without confrontation. The Sigma's withdrawal isn't cowardice, it's wisdom. It's what separates the reactive from the strategic. He chooses peace over pointless battles and truth over theatrics. And the older he gets, the less he explains himself. He's not heartless, but he's not available for every emotional circus. His loyalty is rare because it's real. His silence is sharp because it's intentional, and his presence when you earn it is a gift, not a guarantee. In a world chasing validation, the Sigma walks alone, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. He's seen the price of false loyalty and decided his soul is not for sale. Number 6, choose solitude or be broken by loneliness. The older Sigma didn't always enjoy being alone. In fact, at first it burned like a slow fire in the soul. The silence was deafening, the absence of validation unbearable, and the isolation felt more like exile than choice. But solitude has a strange way of transforming a man. Over time, he discovered that being alone wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. Solitude, he learned, is not emptiness, it's a forge. Like fire tempers steel, isolation refines the soul. In the stillness, without the noise of others' opinions or expectations, he began to hear a voice he had ignored for years, his own. The distractions faded, and what remained was clarity. In that clarity, he found discipline, routines carved not out of obligation, but out of intentional purpose. He mapped his goals without interference and crafted a vision no one else had to believe in but him. Scientific studies even back this up. Solitude enhances creativity and focus, improving problem solving by reducing external social pressures. The Sigma's alone time became his secret weapon, a mental training ground that strengthened his resilience and sharpened his awareness. In a world that screams for attention and thrives on approval, he learned to sit with himself, and that changed everything. He realized that most people are endlessly chasing relationships, groups and trends, not out of passion, but out of the fear of being left out. But not him. Not anymore. He no longer fears loneliness because he no longer sees it as lack. He sees it as leverage. He understands now that power doesn't come from control over others. It comes from mastery over self. The Sigma male no longer waits for company to feel complete. He no longer craves belonging to feel important. His solitude is no longer a weakness. It's a weapon. If you ever speak to him, he'll tell you one truth. Learn to sit with yourself, or be forever chased by the need to belong. And in that one sentence lies the secret to his strength. He walks alone, not because he has to, but because he chooses to. The world tried to tame him through loneliness, but instead he turned it into power. Number 7. Your legacy is not what they remember, it's what you built when no one was watching. The older Sigma male is a man who moves with quiet intent. He doesn't crave the applause of the crowd or the validation of followers. His focus is not on being seen, praised, or even understood. In a world obsessed with recognition, he lives as an anomaly, unbothered by trends, untouched by ego. While others scramble for influence, likes, and approval, the Sigma builds. He refines his craft in silence, studies in solitude, and makes strategic moves behind the curtain. He's the architect of unseen impact. He doesn't measure success by popularity or awards, but by resilience, efficiency, and the long-term value of what he creates. He improves daily, not for performance, but for purpose. He endures storms not to prove a point, but because he knows storms are part of construction. Legacy to him isn't a statue with his name carved into it. It's a system that functions long after he's gone, something that outlives him without needing to bear his identity. He's not interested in being the face of a movement. He's interested in building the foundation that will support it. Science, history, and innovation are full of Sigma-like minds, people who made breakthroughs not for applause, but for advancement. Nikola Tesla, for instance, died alone and broke, yet his contributions to alternating current and wireless technology shaped the modern world. That's the kind of impact the older Sigma understands. When asked why he didn't chase fame, his answer is simple and piercing. Because I wasn't building for them, I was building without them. His reward is not in recognition, but in knowing that the structure stands, that the blueprint worked, and that something of value endures, even if no one knows he was behind it. In this way, the older Sigma represents a timeless truth. True legacy doesn't beg for credit, it just works. Quietly, relentlessly, permanently. Number 8, revenge is noise, mastery is silence. There was a time when the Sigma male felt the urge to confront, to retaliate, to prove everyone who doubted him wrong. The need to defend his name, correct the narrative, or even get revenge burned like fire inside him. But with maturity comes a shift. The older Sigma male no longer engages in petty battles or loud declarations. He's learned that silence is more powerful than shouting, and results speak louder than rebuttals. He now understands that energy is finite, and wasting it on the opinions of small-minded people only delays his rise. In his wisdom, he lives by a quiet code. If they tried to bury you, let your success be what makes them realize you were a seed. This metaphor isn't just poetic, it's rooted in real psychology and philosophy. Studies in resilience show that people who redirect their focus inward, rather than retaliating outwardly, are more likely to achieve long-term growth and emotional strength. The Sigma male doesn't announce his moves. He doesn't warn his critics. He simply disappears, works in silence, and re-emerges transformed, unrecognizable, unreachable, untouchable. This is the art of strategic invisibility. He lets karma do what it does best, knowing that drama always circles back to its source. Instead of fighting fire with fire, he becomes lightning, unpredictable, silent until it strikes, and always above the storm. This isn't weakness, it's evolution. It's what sets the Sigma apart from the reactive alpha or the appeasing beta. His path isn't about dominance or submission, it's about transcendence. His vengeance is not loud, it is the life he builds, the peace he maintains, and the legacy he leaves behind. By becoming lightning, the Sigma male rises where others burn out. So now you have it. Not advice from the crowd, but truth from the shadows. In a world obsessed with noise, validation, and fitting in, choosing solitude isn't weakness, it's awakening. If the applause feels hollow and silence feels like sanctuary, you're not broken, you're simply seeing through the illusion. Sigma males thrive in the margins, where authenticity lives and masks fall away. The older Sigma doesn't guide with words, but with quiet evidence. He's walked through betrayal, solitude, and growth, proving that distance isn't isolation, it's liberation. He doesn't seek attention, but leaves an impact that lingers. In a society addicted to being seen, he proves that the unseen man often travels furthest. Stay curious, be unseen, be unfazed, be unforgettable. And they don't understand him, they never have. And maybe they're not meant to. You see, the Sigma male is an anomaly in a society that worships noise, validation, and conformity. He walks through life not as a rebel or a misfit, but as a man who simply chooses to operate on his own frequency. On the surface, he looks like everyone else. He stands in the same line at the cafe, breathes the same air, shares the same office space, but there's an undeniable aura about him that makes people pause. It's not arrogance, it's presence. People sense it but can't name it. It's in his calm demeanor, his unreadable eyes, his quiet confidence that doesn't beg for approval. He doesn't perform for likes or laugh when it's socially expected. He doesn't gossip to fit in or wear ambition like a badge to impress others, and that, ironically, makes him both fascinating and threatening. Psychologically, Sigma males exhibit traits similar to introverted intuitives on the Myers-Briggs type indicator, often labeled as INTJs or INTPs. These types are independent thinkers, strategists, and deep processors. Their solitude isn't a rejection of others, it's a recalibration of energy. Studies in personality theory show that people tend to judge what they don't understand. That's why the Sigma male is often labeled wrongly, aloof, arrogant, antisocial. But these are just projections from those who can't fathom strength without dominance or value without visibility. What they call weird, he calls clarity. What they label cold, he sees as control. He's not avoiding connection, he's filtering noise. While society obsesses over alpha-beta hierarchies, the Sigma male rewrites the rule book. He doesn't need a pack to lead or follow. He is his own system, and that unsettles people, because the one who walks alone doesn't just see the world differently. He makes the world question itself. That's why this man isn't for everyone, but then again, neither is greatness. Welcome to Brain Boosters, where we don't just observe the Sigma, we decode his legend. Number 1. He's arrogant. They see a man who doesn't chase approval and mistake it for pride. But detachment isn't ego, it's clarity. In a world obsessed with likes, shares, validation, and applause, the man who walks his own path without begging for recognition is often seen as arrogant or antisocial. But here's the truth. Detachment, especially in the context of a Sigma male or a deeply self-aware individual, is not about thinking you're better than others. It's about being free from the compulsion to be seen, praised, or accepted. Detachment is rooted in inner security. It's the result of having wrestled with your identity and come out on the other side, not needing the noise of the crowd to confirm your worth. This kind of clarity is rare in a society where self-worth is often outsourced to public opinion. Psychologists have long recognized the dangers of external validation addiction. It leads to anxiety, identity confusion, and people-pleasing behaviors that drain one's authenticity. In contrast, the detached man operates from internal validation. He doesn't reject others, he just refuses their approval or rejection. His stillness is not indifference, it's focus. His silence isn't arrogance, it's discernment. He listens more than he speaks and acts more than he boasts. To those who need constant reassurance, this man appears mysterious, perhaps even threatening, but in reality he's simply free from the exhausting hamster wheel of trying to be liked by everyone, and that freedom, ironically, makes him more attractive, more magnetic. People are drawn to what they can't easily understand. His calm presence forces them to reflect on their own insecurities. They want to know why he isn't performing for the spotlight, why he can walk into a room and not feel the need to impress anyone. And that's the paradox. He doesn't think he's above them, he just isn't it with them. He's not emotionally entangled in the chaos of social approval. He sees it for what it is, a game, and he chooses not to play. That's not pride, that's power. And the world, used to noise and performance, doesn't know what to make of a man who's simply unbothered, grounded, and content in his own truth. Number 2, he's antisocial, he skips the parties, avoids small talk. Not because he fears people, but because meaningless interaction drains him. This is the mindset of a man who values depth over distraction. In a world obsessed with noise, likes, followers, and constant chatter, the Sigma male walks a quieter path. He's not shy, he's not rude, he's just selective. Neuroscience even backs this up. Studies on introverted brain activity reveal that such individuals have a higher sensitivity to dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. What energizes a social butterfly, like a loud party, can overstimulate someone like him, causing fatigue instead of excitement. So when he steps away from social gatherings, it's not a retreat. It's a reset. He values because it's in silence that he hears his clearest thoughts. And when he does engage, it's never half-hearted. He doesn't do fake laughs, forced small talk, or the empty surface level "how have you been" chats. Instead, he listens with intent, speaks with purpose, and seeks conversations that matter. Those that tap into truth, philosophy, personal growth, or even shared vulnerabilities. That's where his energy flows, and it's not arrogance, it's alignment. He's aligned with, he understands that not every moment needs to be filled and not every person needs to be pleased. To him, a genuine connection, even with one person, is far more rewarding than mingling with a crowd that never really sees him. That's why he'd rather spend his night reading a book that challenges his perspective, hiking in silence with his own thoughts, or having a deep one-on-one with someone who truly gets him. Society may label him aloof, mysterious, or distant, but the truth is, he's deeply present in the moments that actually matter. While others chase attention, he chases meaning, and that's the difference. In the grand theater of human interaction, he's not trying to play every role or be liked by every audience. He's just there for the real scenes, the ones that leave you thinking, feeling, and growing. Number 3, he thinks he's better than everyone. The Sigma male's independence is like a spark in a dry forest. It doesn't take much for it to ignite the insecurities of the collective, what we often call the herd. In a society that praises conformity, obedience, and social validation, the Sigma stands as an anomaly. He doesn't play by the same rules, and that alone makes him suspicious in the eyes of those who rely on external approval to define their worth. The system, which thrives on predictability and control, sees his detachment as a threat. Why? Because systems are designed to manage behavior, and you can't manage a man who refuses to be caged. But here's the twist. He's not out to destroy the system. He's not trying to be superior, he simply seeks freedom. That freedom is internal, not performative. While others chase rank, applause, and visibility, the Sigma moves silently, guided by principles and a personal compass. His journey doesn't require a map approved by society, nor does it follow timelines enforced by tradition. And because of that, people project their fears onto him. They mistake his silence for arrogance, his solitude for sadness, and his confidence for rebellion. But that's only because they don't understand his path, because it was never built for them. Just like wolves aren't meant to walk with sheep, Sigma males weren't designed to blend into the crowd. They think differently, they feel deeply but don't wear it like a badge. They're calculated, not cold, reserved, not broken. In fact, psychological studies suggest that Sigma-type personalities score high on emotional intelligence, an internal locus of control, meaning they believe they are the architects of their own destiny, not victims of external forces. It's this mindset that allows them to thrive in chaos, while others crumble. And while most are seeking permission to live, the Sigma simply lives. Not loudly, not recklessly, but authentically. And that authenticity in a world addicted to imitation is what makes him truly dangerous, not to others, but to the illusions they cling to. Because the moment you see someone living freely without seeking approval, you're forced to confront your own limitations, and that's what truly unsettles the herd. Number 4, he's cold because he doesn't wear his emotions on his sleeve. People often assume he feels nothing, but that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. What you're seeing isn't a lack of emotion, it's emotional discipline. He feels deeply, perhaps more than most, but his reactions are calculated, not impulsive. He doesn't flinch at every provocation or breakdown at every disappointment. Instead, he processes his emotions internally like a scientist in a lab, analyzing each feeling before deciding what to do with it. This isn't coldness, it's mastery. While others are quick to shout, lash out, or break down, he remains composed, calm, and intentional. Psychology calls this emotional regulation, a skill linked to higher emotional intelligence and stronger leadership. In fact, studies in neuroscience have shown that people who take time to regulate emotions rather than reacting immediately tend to make better long-term decisions and experience less regret. He's not avoiding emotion, he's harnessing it. When chaos erupts around him, he doesn't become part of the noise. Instead, he becomes the anchor. That's why his presence is often felt even in silence. People are drawn to him not because he demands attention, but because he embodies stability. When others explode in a heated debate, he waits, he listens. Then when the room quiets down and all the noise fades, he speaks, and people listen. Not because he's loud, but because his words are deliberate, they carry weight. This is the hallmark of a man who understands power isn't in yelling the loudest, but in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's not about bottling things up either. He processes his emotions privately through reflection, solitude, and sometimes in creative or physical outlets. In a world where everyone is encouraged to let it all out, he's mastered the rare art of keeping it together. And that's not repression, it's refinement. Detachment, it's armor, not to push people away, but to protect his focus, his energy, and his purpose. The world may call him aloof, but in reality, he's just tuned into something deeper, something most people miss while they're busy reacting to every passing storm. Number 5, he's emotionally damaged. He's not heartless. That's a common misconception about men who value their solitude, especially Sigma males, those lone wolves of society who thrive outside the conventional social hierarchy. To many, his silence feels cold, his distance feels dismissive, and his independence feels like rejection. But in reality, he's not emotionally vacant. He just doesn't need constant validation, small talk, or digital dopamine to feel whole. While others measure their worth by likes, group chats, or weekend plans, he finds contentment in stillness. Psychology suggests that people who are comfortable with solitude often have a stronger sense of self-awareness, emotional regulation, and internal motivation. Solitude isn't a wound he's nursing, it's his sanctuary, his workshop, where ideas are born, peace is restored, and purpose is recalibrated. Unlike extroverts who refuel through interaction, Sigma males recharge by withdrawing, not as a defense mechanism, but as a lifestyle choice rooted in clarity and self-preservation. He's not running from people, he's returning to himself. And this return is sacred. Studies in behavioral science reveal that people who spend intentional time alone experience less anxiety, are more productive, and make better decisions. But his quiet unnerves the world. Why? Because many fear the silence he embraces. They've never met the sound of their own soul without the noise of the crowd. His silence forces others to confront their own chaos, and that's uncomfortable. In a society addicted to distraction, a man who walks calmly into solitude is viewed with suspicion. But look deeper. He's not avoiding life. He's mastering it on his terms. He chooses depth over noise, truth over popularity, and peace over performance. His world may not be loud, but it's full. And while they chase connections to feel alive, he builds a connection with himself that no one can take away. So the next time they call him distant, stoic, or detached, remember, he's simply not afraid of the silence, because in that silence, he's not lost, he's home. Number 6, he's intimidating. He doesn't posture, doesn't flex, doesn't bark, and yet, when he enters a room, something changes. People might not know why they glance up, why conversations pause for a split second, or why they instinctively notice him even if he hasn't said a word. It's not bravado, it's not showmanship. It's the quiet authority of someone who's mastered stillness. In a world that rewards noise and celebrates performative confidence, this kind of presence stands out like a whisper in a hurricane. Stillness is power. It signals control, discipline, and self-assuredness. Psychologically, it's been observed that individuals who speak less and move with purpose are perceived as more competent and dominant. This isn't about arrogance or aloofness, it's about internal grounding. The Sigma male, often described as the lone wolf of social hierarchies, embodies this principle fully. He doesn't need validation, approval, or applause. His confidence is not inflated, it's earned and therefore unshakable. Power that doesn't speak paradoxically echoes louder because it forces others to lean in, to observe, to wonder. There's a natural magnetism in restraint. Think of historical figures like Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, who ruled one of the largest empires in history with calm deliberation and thoughtful silence. Or modern examples like Keanu Reeves, whose soft-spoken demeanor and humility command far more respect than any chest-thumping celebrity. In fact, studies in behavioral psychology have shown that those who practice composed silence and strategic speech often lead more effectively, as people interpret their words as carrying more weight. It's the law of contrast. When everyone else is shouting, the one who whispers becomes unforgettable. So while the world clamors for attention, the man rooted in stillness doesn't chase it, he attracts it. And not because he demands it, but because people sense a force within him they can't quite explain. It's not about what he's doing, it's about what he's not doing. He's not performing, he's simply being, anchored, alert, aware. That's why his presence shifts the energy of the room. It's the echo of unspoken power, reverberating louder than any shout ever could. Number 7. He's untrustworthy. People trust the predictable, the familiar, the echo chamber that reassures them they're not alone in their thoughts, their habits, or their fears. Society finds comfort in routine, in people who fit a mold and follow the script. That's why Sigma males unsettle so many. The Sigma isn't predictable. He's the wild card in a world obsessed with patterns. He's not interested in small talk or superficial validation. He doesn't explain every move he makes, and he certainly doesn't feel the need to overshare the way others do just to feel accepted. This confuses people. In a society where vulnerability is often performed for attention, where relatability is currency, the Sigma's silence feels like rebellion, so people assume he must be hiding something. They whisper, they speculate, they fill in the blanks with their own projections. But the truth is simpler. He's not hiding anything. He's protecting everything, his thoughts, his peace, his values, and most of all, his identity. This behavior isn't rooted in arrogance, it's strategic. Studies in psychology show that humans have a tendency toward we believe others can sense what we're thinking or feeling. But Sigmas operate in reverse. They intentionally obscure their inner world, not to manipulate, but to preserve it. They understand that most people listen to respond, not to understand. So why throw pearls before swine? Why expose something sacred to people who won't get it, or worse, weaponize it? Instead, Sigmas let their actions speak. They don't make promises they can't keep or boast about what they're going to do. They do it, they live it. And if you're paying attention, you'll see it, because trust to a Sigma is not handed out like candy on Halloween. It's forged slowly, in silence and consistency. The Sigma male walks through life with the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing to prove, but everything to protect. He's not part of the echo chamber. He's the static that disrupts it, and in a world that demands your attention, your loyalty, and your soul, his resistance to overexposure is not only rare, it's powerful. Number 8, he got lucky. They never saw the isolation. The Sigma male's journey begins not in the spotlight, but in solitude. While others were out seeking validation, he was in the shadows, crafting his character. They never noticed the discipline, those grueling early mornings and relentless late nights spent learning, planning, and improving. There were no witnesses to the 10,000 quiet choices he made, the skipped parties, the hours in the gym when no one was watching, the decision to read a book instead of scrolling aimlessly. These weren't dramatic, showy acts of self-improvement. They were deliberate moves in a long game of mastery. Because the Sigma male doesn't broadcast his hustle. He doesn't post his every achievement for likes. He doesn't crave attention. He craves freedom. And freedom for him is earned through self-discipline, not self-promotion. The world doesn't understand this kind of man because he doesn't fit the mold. He doesn't chase status or engage in pointless social hierarchies. Instead, he builds substance layer by layer. He acquires skills, not clout. He invests in knowledge, not followers. In a society obsessed with image, he becomes the anomaly, the outlier who grows in silence. And when he rises, suddenly, powerfully, it confuses the very people who once laughed at his stillness. They didn't see the silent grind. They didn't hear the internal wars he fought and won. But now, they can't ignore his presence. What makes the Sigma male's greatness so unique is that it's not loud or boastful. It's enduring. Studies in behavioral psychology show that intrinsic motivation, the drive that comes from within, often leads to more sustainable success than external validation. This is exactly what fuels the Sigma. His success isn't meant to impress others. It's a byproduct of who he became while no one was watching. His legacy is not built on volume, but on value. His energy doesn't demand the room, it changes it. He proves that true power doesn't have to shout, it just has to last. And by the time the world notices, it's already too late to catch up, because while they were busy being seen, he was busy becoming. To the outside world, the Sigma male often appears arrogant, cold, and mysterious, an enigma that defies conventional social molds. But this perception is more projection than reality. Society tends to fear what it can't categorize, and the Sigma's independence, self-mastery, and refusal to conform unsettle those who rely on group validation. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's strength. His silence isn't arrogance, it's depth. The truth is, people label what they can't control. Sigma males were never meant to fit in, they were meant to stand out. And in doing so, they become unforgettable. Stay curious, be unseen, be unfazed, be unforgettable. This is Brain Boosters.